going to interrupt your fabulous conversation to introduce our speaker, who I know really needs no introduction today, but Becky Davis, our President-elect and Development Officer at the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina, is our presenter today. Becky's been with the Community Foundation 11 years, and when she told me that, I started feeling really old. And Becky has a wealth of fundraising development experience, and her presentation today, I have no doubt you're going to be delighted with, because it received phenomenal reviews at Philanthropy Institute last year, which is why I asked her to bring it to us to a monthly meeting. So let's learn about our philanthropic passion.
And can I say before she starts, she has been a mentor now for 4 mentors.
Thanks, Amanda. I am really grateful to be here for the monthly luncheon. In truth, when I see a session advertised as interactive, I typically choose to bypass that, or if it's in a conference, I retreat to the bathroom. So kudos. You're laughing, but I'm not kidding. So kudos to y'all for showing up today. The definition of philanthropy that rings true for many of us is the love of humankind, with origins in the Greek language. Other definitions, as I was working through this presentation, include the practice of giving money and time to help make life better for other people, the desire to promote the welfare of others, expressed especially by the generous donation of money to good causes. Just as background, according to Giving USA, American total giving totaled $373.25 billion for the year 2015. Now, this was a record year. 2015 beat the previous record year that was in 2014, but prior to that, the record year was in 2007 with the Great Recession. In 2015, 80% of total contributions came from donations from individuals, including bequests. That percentage has been relatively stable year after year. That is why we, as nonprofit professionals, focus on our work on asking individuals, because we give substantially more than foundations and businesses. Honestly, I've seen this over and over again, which I'm sure many of you have as well, but because of our topic, I felt it was relevant to put in front of you again. Looking forward, the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University released their philanthropic outlook for 2016 and 2017. Total giving is expected to grow 4.1% in 2016 and an additional 4.3% in 2017. Let's dive into the interactive part. I added some pens on the tables in case y'all didn't bring a pen.
Becky, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Totally off page. Do you know if there have been any projections about what it's going to look like and how it's going to skew things? No offense to anybody, but when the baby boomers start dying and requests start coming in that are not going to be replicable and their kids aren't, do you have that? Is it in here?
It's not, no. Because the giving patterns for each generation, as many of us have heard over and over again, are vastly different too. And then when you look at that wealth, I remember one of my first PIs I went to, they talked about the $41 trillion amount that's going to come through the pipeline, and we're just in the early stages of receiving some of that money. So yeah, I have not seen a study. Has anybody else? Mark?
Actually, I was in on a Tom Ahern webinar about a week or two ago, and he said that we'll be focusing on the boomers until the 2030 something, at least is what he's saying.
Okay.
So yeah,
So that's still a while.
it's still a while.
Yeah.
But not that long.
No, I mean,
15 or 16 years.
Right.
You know? Well, some of us will still work.
Better get on that then.
All right, so this is where the interactive part starts. I want y'all to think about past gifts that you've given to charitable organizations. Which donation is the most memorable to you? Please share the story with someone you don't know and describe your experience. Did you feel most engaged, most valued? What made that gift meaningful, effective, impactful for you? Come on.
It was personal. I've always carried a good I mean, it was the largest philanthropic family. My I'm not really big on I understand what that means, but I don't I
know
I actually
Okay, we're going to come back around to the next bit of information. So as you contemplate what you shared, your peak giving experience, what type of giving does that fall under? Is it an honored obligation, like giving your PTA at your kid's school or a work campaign? Social and fun giving, like going to a gala or a favor for a friend? Passionate, organizations that mission aligns with what is important to you? Strategic or transformative giving, taking the time to be a thoughtful, impactful philanthropist. Most people have the majority of their giving through honored obligations and the least through strategic giving. I hope that as a result of today, you will think deeper about your charitable giving. Many discovered that as a result of looking more strategic at their giving, that they move from giving to charity to more of social change philanthropy. The Chicago Community Trust celebrated their 100th birthday in 2015. They asked local residents to share a meal with someone else to discuss their philanthropy. 25,000 people did. Donors asked what they cared about and what they contributed to. They did not equate. I think it is because of what we just talked about, with most people's giving comes from honored obligations and the least through strategic. What type of giving do you think your donors are at for your organization? Where do you want them to be? What type do you think fosters long-term relationships? Giving makes us feel good. Medical tests show that giving stimulates a part of the brain that gives us the same gratification as when we eat or have sex. Feeling good in the moment doesn't necessarily accomplish our greater goal, making the world a better place. Yes, Terry. Okay, I was wondering if I could keep going with this group on that one or not.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. I'm going to keep going anyway because we have minors in the audience. Feeling good in the moment doesn't necessarily accomplish our greater goal, making the world a better place. Too often, that glow that drives us to give is not backed by knowledge, research, and strategy. 70% of donors do not conduct research on the charity before donating. 70%. We give, but we rarely find out how our money is used. Giving away money is easier than doing it effectively. I give props to the program department at the Community Foundation who work with nonprofit organizations on grant applications. I hear many development professionals say they would like to see what it is like to give money as opposed to fundraise. I see how challenged the program officers are when faced with limited funds and community needs that cannot be met. They have to say no to organizations doing good work all the time. I hope you are able to give more effectively after thinking through some of what we will discuss today. Everyone has a reason for giving. Do any of these reasons resonate with you for why you give? More than one? Think about this as we go through the session. Part of my work at the Community Foundation is to work with donors to establish funds. And there I encounter folks that have one of these, several of these. Sometimes a donor comes to me because their accountant says, you're going to have a capital gains issue this year. You need to give some money away. You need to go work with the Community Foundation. I work with several donors, and in the Myers-Briggs, I'm a very strong T. I don't have a lot of F, but for some reason, I work with a lot of the memorial funds, and I cry every time. Working with someone when they want to memorialize someone is very challenging. We happen to have 3 different funds for deceased professional kayakers at the Community Foundation. 3. Now that did not stop me from enrolling my kid in kayak camp 2 weeks ago, but we have 3, and they all have different purposes. There is nowhere I'd rather be than working with these families. There was one Friday afternoon, my coworkers were out on the veranda getting a beer, and I was in the office with 2 of the parents as they were crying, talking about how they wanted to work with the giving for their son and their fund. Oh, and if someone comes to you and says, we want to have a bench at your place of business and memorialize their son or their daughter, do not say that you're afraid your entity will look like a graveyard. Don't say that. That happened. I kid you not. And so I tried to work with this family and contacted several different organizations that was still along the goals to say what would happen, how much would it cost, what would happen to prevent that from happening again. They already lost their kid. Anyway, that's a soapbox I didn't think I was going to share with you, but that was hard, and we're moving forward. So the Women's Philanthropy Institute at the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University came out with some research and cited several motivations for giving that varied among genders. Single women are more likely than single men to cite their political or philosophical beliefs and serving on a board or volunteering as motivation for giving. In couples with the wife as the sole or main decision maker on giving, the household is more likely than joint decision makers to be motivated by spontaneously responding to a need, believing their gift makes a difference, and as a result of their political and philosophical beliefs, and less likely to be motivated by religious beliefs. In couples with the husband as sole decision maker on giving, the household is less likely than joint deciders to be motivated to give by setting an example for future generations' religious beliefs and the personal satisfaction of giving. What experiences and people have been key in shaping your core values and passions? What do you notice about your values when you consider your choices? such as life directions, career, free time, lifestyle, donations, and spending. When you hear of world events or witness an injustice, and there are plenty of recent examples from natural disasters, flooding, shootings, what moves you most? With what have you been most troubled, most delighted? Can you tell the time for another exercise is coming on? Okay. So take a few minutes and reflect on the questions posed. You have a worksheet in front of you that has the topic indicators of your values, and as I went through those, so I'm going to go through those again for you to kind of contemplate. Again, when you hear of world events or witness an injustice, what moves you most? With what have you been most troubled, most delighted? What experiences and people have been key in shaping your core values and passion? What do you notice about your values when you consider your choices, such as life directions, career, free time, lifestyle, donations, and spending? Write down a few thoughts that come to mind on the worksheet. Oh, those questions I just said to you, they're not on there.
You had to be listening.
You had to read.
Can you say them again?
One more time. One more time. All right, here we go. So when you hear of world events or witness an injustice, what moves you most? With what have you been most troubled, most delighted? What experiences have been key in shaping your core values and passions? What do you notice about your values when you consider your choices, such as life directions, career, free time, lifestyle, donations, and spending?
Well, I kind of, they leave in one.
Yeah.
Look at what's the vehicle to actually get $5 to help. Most of the time I just
All right, we're going to keep moving. You're going to use your worksheet again for this. Listed here are words or phrases that express values. Choose from this list no more than your top 5 values for your worksheet. Feel free to add some that may not be on this list that are high on your list of what's important to you.
No more than 5.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
You can add more if you're really, really wealthy.
That was good.
And once you have 5, or around there, You can take a look at it and see if there are 3 that really pop out at you in terms of your character and what's important to you, and note them. I'm going to keep moving. We're going to use your worksheet again for this. The following are words or phrases that describe issue areas and populations that you may care about as a contributor or that you may work for as a development professional. Again, the areas provided are only for inspiration. You may never have donated time or money or worked for one of these areas of interest before. This exercise is simply to give you the chance to recognize what has meaning for you among things that you could give to. Again, there may be other issue areas that are not listed there that you may be passionate about. Please list those if others come up as you are thinking through what you've already talked about, shared with others in terms of your giving experience or your indicators of your values. For instance, I'm passionate about education and social justice. My wife's passion is the environment. My daughter is quite concerned about the plight of the elephants given the ivory trade. Choose from this list, again, or others, top 5, and if possible, narrow down to your top 3. And if one of them really percolates up to the top of you, make a note of that as well. All right, the next questions are actually on the slide for y'all to think about. So I want you to think about the exploration of your values and issues and how they may intersect or how they may not. So again, talk amongst yourselves in small groups or one-on-one about these 3 questions as you identified your values and issue areas.
Depends on how where you are in life.
It's funny because it's like those are issues I've thought a lot about. It's hard to kind of do a quick hit. Those issues, I think, where unless you've got a really hot issue like you kind of struggle with how to communicate sometimes. objectivity is
So,
not
kinds of
necessarily
things.
society or being a country or something like that. It's important. I think it's a harder thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
For appearances. It's actually free families and laws. It's not universally true, but in my experience, you can be very beginning. But there are pros and one shot. Passionate cause or because someone they love first time families. It's a hard thing. I feel like there's not a support or in my experience that I've had. Most don't get loans. Very much about that.
I know both you and I have had that.
I like to talk about people who sort of fall.
So check out these two examples of different donors' values and interests. So my top 3 values are community, justice, and respect, and my top 3 issue areas are senior citizens, poverty, and homelessness housing. The relationship that I see is that in order for everyone to live in a just community, all senior citizens must have enough financial support, including good housing, to lead their lives in respect. And my top 3 values are dignity, equality, and opportunity. And my top 3 issue areas are education, economic justice, and youth development. I believe that the opportunity for a good education, particularly for young people who are shut out of their full potential early on because of poor schools, is vital to dignity, equality, and finally economic justice for everyone. So philanthropy is not just limited, as you all know, to giving of your financial resources. There are other ways to contribute. The possibilities are endless. Everyone has something to give. Now that you have discussed and thought about the intersection of your values with your key issue areas, what time, talents, and treasure do you bring to your passion? The majority of this session is on giving money and where you are providing your expertise as a development professional. But do consider other ways you could give of yourself to causes that are important to you. Are you good at organizing details, creating plans, motivating people, planning events, giving parties? Are you a good listener, good with people, passionate public speaker? Locally, you can check out Hands on Asheville through the United Way for an abundance of volunteer opportunities. Or advocating on behalf of causes important to you is a way many individuals and organizations are utilizing to make a greater impact. I do a version of this session for female philanthropists, and this part they can usually do while they're with me, but this is not a session that you can, but it's still something I wanted to talk about. So reflect on what organizations you give to, what amount, and why you gave. Most likely you will not be able to do an analysis of your current giving right now, because I doubt you all brought your checkbook or book in with you. When you are able to review your current giving, though, reflect on the organization, the issue it addresses, strategies it employs, budget, age of organization, scope of service area. You may notice some patterns in your giving. How did you find out about the organizations? How do you stay informed with the work you helped make happen? This part is an essential exercise if you wish to increase your impact. Once you've taken stock in your giving history, you'll be able to be more deliberate in your selections going forward. Look at the patterns of your giving. Do you give small checks, online, gifts via text message, regularly throughout the year, or once at the holiday season? A former coworker of mine at a different local nonprofit would set aside money once a month, and she would give to whatever organization asked her first. That was her policy. I'm not kidding. This really happened.
Wow.
So when you are able to look at your previous gifts, contemplate the following. What are the gifts you don't feel proud or satisfied about? Have you had a negative experience with a nonprofit? Has your giving evolved over the last several years? In the recent study I previously mentioned, there are gender differences for giving. Women tend to spread their giving across more organizations, while men tend to concentrate their giving. Among high net worth individuals, single women are more likely than single men to give, and give more to arts and the environment, while high net worth single men are more likely to give to more combination organizations like the United Way. So this is where we're focusing on your career. Same kind of thing that we just talked about with your giving. Reflect on what organizations you work at and the organizations you have worked at. What is the issue that nonprofit employs? What's the scope of the service area? You may notice some patterns in your career path. How did you get employed? Were you a volunteer there first? Did you just apply for the position? Did you hear about it through your network? Look at the patterns in your career or lack thereof. What are the organizations you don't feel proud or satisfied with your employment? Has your career path evolved over the last several years? Where is your passion? At a recent luncheon, I met a fundraiser who, as she was introducing herself to me, she shared what her role was, and then with a beaming smile added, "It is my passion." It was very evident. I didn't know you were going to be here today, Tammy, but when Tammy gave her presentation in December, she shared with us her personal connection with children's homes and her history of working as a development professional, and not just one, but 3. It was quite evident to me that that was her passion. Are you working at a place that the mission is aligned with your personal passion? How much more effective do you think you would be if you were? Take a few moments and think big. What one problem in society would you work to resolve? Who would you convene, hire, or work with to support your efforts? What outcomes would you hope for in what time frame? How would you be involved to maximize impact? How would you share your vision with others? What is holding you back from starting that work? So what do you want to do with your giving, and your time, and why? Mission statements are no longer for this purpose, for 2 to 3 sentences, something you can remember and others can understand. It will pack a lot of information, but may take some time to get to say what you want it to say. So now this is where all of the exercises that we've done should culminate in you coming up with a draft of your own philanthropic mission statement. It should include reference to your passionate interests, what you think you have the skill set to improve or change issues you care about, and what are you doing to support involvement or change, some action steps. I have a couple examples that might be helpful. I want to see social justice, economic redistribution, and racial harmony. Therefore, I work for, donate to, and volunteer with organizations that involve ordinary people in confronting and changing the institutions and public policies that affect their lives. I especially like to support those organizations in which I am personally involved or where I know leaders of the organization. Our family's goal is to bring creative expression to our community. We fund art and photography classes for inner city and rural young people and have established a summer community arts program that works with more than 200 young people in our town each summer. In addition, we buy art from emerging artists for personal investment and joy. So take some time, look at your worksheets with what you've already compiled. Think about those 2 examples of mission statement and try to see what you can come up with in terms of a draft for your own philanthropic mission statement. Pardon? I hope so. I plan for it to be, yes. So in my work with donors, I can say that I don't do something like this one-on-one. It's much more condensed and much more personal, but for those that do develop their own philanthropic mission statement, they have come back and said how helpful that is for them in terms of their giving. A lot of the reasons why we have donors come to us is because they're getting asked by all sorts of different organizations, and they come to us with literally like all these envelopes, and they say, help me. And some people feel really bad with saying no, but once they hone in on a mission statement, that usually gives them the freedom to give to what is most meaningful to them. Deciding how much to give. How much money do you really have? Worldwide, the average salary is just less than $18,000 from 2012 data, according to the United Nations International Labor Organization. The median income in 2014, according to the U.S. Census, was $53,657. For the 18-county region of Western North Carolina, no surprise, it's less than that. The average income is about $40,000. Knowing the above, do you feel like you could be or would like to be more generous? How much should you give? In the end, you're really the only one that can answer that. According to Giving USA, in 2014, per capita giving by U.S. adults reached $1,050, and average U.S. household giving reached $2,030. Before you estimate what you can give to charity, have you met your family's needs for living expenses, insurance, education, retirement? How much can you spend on charitable giving without financially risking your savings? Charitable giving is estimated to be only 2% of average household disposable income in the U.S. This number has remained unchanged on average for the past 40 years. Tithing, 10%. Belief that 90% is what you earn and the rest should be used for the good of humanity. Many of us have heard about the Giving Pledge, launched in the summer of 2010 by Warren Buffett and Bill and Melinda Gates. They invited billionaires to give the majority of their assets to charity. Right now, there's about 142 couples and individuals that have signed on. This notion has proved popular for charitably minded individuals that aren't wealthy. There are avenues such as Boulder Giving, which you can find online, that's assisting with that. Boulder Giving's mission is to inspire and support people to give at their full-time, lifetime potential. They have truly groundbreaking stories of regular people committing 20, 50, and even 90% of their income for philanthropy. According to the Chronicle of Philanthropy, based on 2012 data, the most recent available, and if you're a data geek, you might want to write some of this down, residents of Buncombe County give 3.9% of their assets to charity. Buncombe County actually has the lowest percentage in all of Western North Carolina. Yancey County has the highest at 5.49%. If you Google how America gives, you can enter in your city, state, county to see all kinds of giving data, from ratios, median contribution, breakdown by income bracket, and more. Like I said, if you're a data geek, you want to check out how America gives. According to that same research I cited earlier, conducted by the Women's Philanthropy Institute, an increase in men's income tends to increase the likelihood and amount of giving to nearly every charitable subsector, while an increase in women's income tends to increase the likelihood of giving to education, the environment, and organizations that address basic needs. I remember being asked by my parents to divide up my allowance, and I was responsible to give 10% to my church. Did any of the rest of you have the ledger book that you had? Yeah, all right, yeah, that's me. So truth be told, I don't give that much to charity now, in small part because my daughter chose to go to private school for middle school, but we'll get past that eventually. Speaking of my daughter, I have a jar allowance method for her. She's 12 now. She receives half her age in dollars every week. So now she receives $6. She must put 2 quarters in each jar, college future, and I named it that because right now it's saving for her college. After college, it'll be saving for her future, so that's always for something in the future. Savings, spending, and charity. She then divides up the rest of the money into the remaining jars as she chooses. She has given countless dollars to organizations of her choosing since starting this allowance jar method at age 5. In December, she received more charity solicitations in the mail than I did. I kid you not. Like, at one point, she was like, "Don't they know I'm just 12?" I'm like, "No, they don't know that you're just 12. They just know you've given them money before." Obviously, I work in philanthropy, and I want to pass along those values to my daughter, but I want it to be her decision. I sure hope this quote leaves an impact on you. If it doesn't, perhaps this profession isn't the right one for you. Now, what I'm about to say is important. We carry such a privilege in doing what we do. We really are quite lucky. Leaving your legacy. How do you want to be remembered? Do you have a will? Does it have a charitable provision? Again, I didn't know Andy was going to be here, but Andy's talked to us about this before more than once. If giving is important to you now and part of your career, what lasting impression do you want to leave after you are gone? Depending on what is your source, because between 5 to 18% of individuals leave charity assets when they pass away. When you ask others why they didn't, what do they say? Because I wasn't asked. The most likely person to have a charitable provision in their will is a single woman. In neighboring Charlotte, here's a couple stories for you. Lynn Kennelly took great pride in her work as a marketing professional and derived considerable joy from her volunteer involvement. She died at the age of 50 and left bequests totaling more than $200,000 to 5 nonprofits, including the Humane Society and the YWCA of Charlotte. Nell Rose Bates, a widow and retired public school teacher, left $1.8 million to charity, including $400,000 to her church and $1.4 million to a fund at the Foundation for the Carolinas that will support affordable giving. According to a colleague, Nell's message to all the children in her classroom was, "You matter." These women can offer all of us the following lessons. You can make a difference forever. Don't confuse wealth with a willingness to give. And bequests are often the largest gift a donor makes. What are your next steps? How will you shift your charitable giving? How does your mission statement impact your career path? Or does it confirm what you've already been doing? When I went to college, my degree was actually in Parks and Recreation Administration. And I remember them telling me that I could expect a starting salary of all of $16,000. My first salaried position in Black Mountain, North Carolina was $15,600. So I didn't even meet the minimum that they were talking about. And my mom was so sad. She's like, "Becky, why don't you do something like you're in accounting or engineering and work with your passion on the side?" Like, she was very concerned about my financial well-being. That didn't work for me, obviously. I wanted to be a nonprofit path. That was in the 90s, so that's a long time ago. A few years back, Princeton philosopher Peter Singer had a student who, like many graduates, wanted to change the world for the better. The student decided the best way for him to do that wouldn't be to join the Peace Corps or take a low-paying job at a nonprofit. Instead, he decided to take a job on Wall Street and donate as much of his income as possible to charities he believed in. He figured he could make a bigger difference doing that than if he went to work for one of the organizations. So this student is several years out of college now. Each year he has donated 6-figure income sums to charities, or about half of his income. When you look at what it costs to save a life with this kind of work, he's already saved many, many lives with what he's been doing. Now, Peter Singer is the author of the book, The More Good You Can Do, How Effective Altruism is Changing Ideas About Living Ethically. He sees this approach to philanthropy as a new, better way to give, known as effective altruism. passion is contagious. If you aren't passionate about your cause, how can you get others to be? Back when I was in 7th grade, one of my teachers asked the class how many of your parents enjoy their job. My hand went up. In amazement, I looked around the room. My hand was the only hand that was up. The only hand. I was shocked. If you are a parent, would your kid raise your hand if they were asked that question? These are some of the resources that I have looked at in my work with donors and have helped inform this session in case you wanted to dig a little bit deeper into some of these topics. All right, I know Amy's got a question, unless I already addressed it. Amy.
Questions here.
Oh, okay.
Alex said he had 50.
50?
Alex.
We have to go.
I know. I don't want. All right, I'll make a statement.
Yes.
Your presentation was extremely positive. So, for example, there are a lot of people that give money for negative reasons.
Yes.
Do you think it's up to us to try and change their thinking into giving in more positive ways?
That's a good question. I get teased at the foundation as being the donor intent police, because if we have a fund agreement and it says it's going to be used for music lessons for homebound people, which we do have a fund agreement that's that specific, and the program department says, well, can't we use it for? I said, no. We told the donor that we were going to do this. So, but my work with donors honestly is very different than your guys' work with donors. I work to fit where the donors want, whereas many of y'all in the room have programs that need to be funded, and so y'all have a different kind of conversation, honestly, than I do. So I do think asking those probing questions and getting at what they're really wanting to impact in order to shift that.
But isn't your entire presentation saying to me, you need to change the way you're having those conversations with your donors? Yes. And to meet the donors where they are, but sometimes, like, I might have a donor that comes and that says, I want to open a scholarship fund, and I want it to be for this. And we talk a little bit about why, and it turns out that's just what they know of, that they think that they want, but really there's another avenue. So those probing questions about why is this important to you, what are you trying to solve, I think that will get at hopefully shifting the negative to the positive. And you also don't have a boss that looks at you and says, I'm very happy that they want to do a planned gift. I need $50,000 to make the payroll this month.
Right. And that's my role is very different, right? Like, and I'm reminded of that all the time through Power of the Purse, where Cheryl's saying to me, Becky, if you don't raise this much money, it's not like there's a position that can't be met or a program that we can't do, because we're about endowments. So the work that I do at the foundation is very different than the work that I did at Carolina Day or at YWCA when there was goals that we had to be met. Right.
We have time for one more, and we're going to be 5 minutes over. I know. It was a good conversation. I didn't want to end it.
Thank you, Becky.
All right, next month, I think our next meeting is September 21st. Sandy Reese from Tennessee will be joining us. I know a number of you already know her. And she is going to be talking about introverts can indeed be fundraisers. So be here. It's going to be fun, and you're going to learn a lot. Thank you.